Welcome to the To the Moon Collective. Today, we're going to be talking about the 8 biggest, most frequently asked questions for people that are deciding whether or not they wanted to get into real estate. This is such an important video. If you are thinking about getting into real estate and you've heard magic stories and all this incredible stuff, this video is going to be for you because we're going to uncover the truth. I'm going to tell you, no holds bar, the actual truth about what this business is like to help you decide if this business is right for you. And we're going to get it started with a doozy. Number one, should I even get into a career in real estate? This is the most important question. You have to understand that a lot of the glitz and the glamour that you do see probably from social media influencers online, it comes at a cost. And also, that is probably the top percentage of realtors that you're seeing. So what I want to really help you understand is, or be able to make the decision of, are you right for real estate / is real estate right for you? Because it's a symbiotic relationship. Real estate is a very difficult job and it is not for the faint-hearted. So a couple of the characteristics that I would say, number one, self-motivation. Now this can vary if you're on a team, if you're a solo agent, but it is a type of job where you don't show up to work and you just have a task list of things to do. This is the type of job where when nothing's going on, sometimes, most times, you have to figure out what to do. You have to have the discipline, not motivation. You have to have the discipline to go forth and conquer. I've seen this. I've seen people really, really struggle with this, especially, getting out of the military, for example, where they're used to a job where you show up and somebody tells you what to do. They tell you when to do it. They tell you how to do it. They give you the measurements of success. And it's like an immediate feedback loop. Real estate is not like that. It is a very, very long game. It is a very, very slow game. So number two would be, if you need immediate satisfaction, which is fine, this is not the right job. You rarely have any kind of immediate satisfaction, especially when it comes to the paycheck, right? Let me give you a quick example, something that a lot of people don't consider. Number one, let's say that just by random circumstance, best case scenario, somebody calls you out of the blue and they say, "Hey, Kyle, I want to buy a home. In fact, I already know what home I want to buy. Can you represent me?" And I go, "Yeah, obviously." So I take him to the house, we show him the house, we write up an offer that night, and we go under contract. Let's say that it is June 1. You write that contract, at least this is how it works in Colorado. And in a normal circumstance, it gets accepted that day. You go under contract. Normal contract length out here is 45 days. Now we do 30-day deals as well, but the normal is 45 days. That means you will not get paid until July 15th. Now, let me give you a more realistic scenario is obviously somebody calls you well, that's not how that works, but you get a hold of somebody that ends up wanting to be a client. They say, "Hey, we're interested in buying a home." You meet with them, you have a buyer's consultation, et cetera. Now you're going to show them some homes. Now that could be, again, best case, the first 3 homes, one of them they decide to buy. There's a lot of scenarios where you are out 2 or 3 or 4 times before you find the right house for them. That is totally market dependent, but now you start to extend that timeline. It could be 45, 60, 75. I did not get my first deal until 6 months is when my first deal closed. So just for perspective. So number 3, you also, real estate is really only for you if you are financially a little bit stable. And we're going to get into that a little bit later, but it took me 6 months to get my first deal. That's not, I don't want to say it's not like the rule, but that's also not that uncommon for it to take that long for somebody to get their first deal. I guess we're on number 4 with that. I think a major character trait is resilience. This job is a lot of rejection. It's a lot of mistakes. There have definitely been times where I have messed up or dropped the ball or, I'll tell you a personal story. I had a client that I had to have a great relationship with, and they sent me a referral. Well, when they sent me the referral, I was gone. I was on a 2-week trip. I was in Kentucky. I was on a really bizarro schedule because I was doing some other work, and I really just dropped the ball for that referral. And I totally forgot about it until like a week after I got back, or 2 weeks after, and I couldn't remember the name. Who was it? I couldn't find them, and ended up losing that client. That was really sucky because I think more so than losing the client, it was like I lost the trust of that referral partner. So it's not the end of the world, but you have to have some resiliency because you're gonna mess up. You're gonna get fact checked. You're gonna get told you're wrong. You're gonna find out that you're wrong. You're gonna make predictions and be totally wrong. And again, it can be a lot of rejection, and that's hard for people. Obviously, communication skills, that goes without saying, and it's communication and sales, right? It doesn't just mean like, oh, I like talking to people. That's not going to make you successful in this business. You have to have the ability. This goes back to the motivation. You have to have the discipline to work on your skill set. And communication is also a skill. The ability to communicate, the ability to take complex topics like real estate and the market and the economy and break it down for clients, or expound on it because maybe they know a little bit more than you do. Honesty and integrity, that goes without saying. And then adaptability. The game is always changing. We're about to undergo some major market changes in the way that this business is done with, the lawsuits that came out. And you just have to adapt. And if it's very much an adapt or die type of situation. And then the unsexy stuff about real estate: long hours. You are an entrepreneur. Sure, I didn't start some, brick and mortar business, but you are an entrepreneur in this business. Your branding, your marketing, your working your financials, your accounting, your sales, like your every department, like in your little sphere. And it requires a lot of hours. It is not a 9 to 5 job. If you're trying to make it a 9 to 5 job, you're just not going to be successful. It doesn't work like that. Especially early on, you have to be willing to give a little bit more to the business so that you can set yourself up for success later. And look, I am living proof that the harder that you go early on, what starts to happen is truly now deals do fall in my lap, quote unquote, right? Now deals do appear because somebody texts me and says, hey, I got a guy at work that was telling me that he's moving. I want to put you guys in touch. That happens. That does not happen early on, period. Because you don't know anything. You're not good. You have no experience. And it's a $500,000 or $750,000 purchase. Like, you have to understand that you have to do things to build your own credibility. And it sometimes becomes very, very long hours. And you work weekends. You're going to be working Saturdays. You're going to be working Sundays. You're going to go on vacation. I remember the first contract that I ever wrote, the first offer that I ever wrote was for one of my best friends. He was giving me an opportunity to help him out. And we go on a little ski trip. And we have friends in town. And that night, he's like, we need to write this offer. And we had to right then because we knew that this place was going to be going quick. Oh my God. So I had no idea what I was doing. So I'm like on the phone with my team leader, and like he's coaching me through it, and I'm writing. And it took so long to write this offer. And I just remember like my friends were kind of annoyed, and she wasn't my wife at the time, but like she was pretty annoyed because like we're on vacation, hanging out with people, and I'm just working. And that becomes a really hard thing to balance. The financial instability, you can have totally killer quarters, and then you can have quarters where you have nothing going on. So you have to get good at saving. You can't just get a $20,000 paycheck and blow it. Because additionally, you've got to worry about like all your own business financials, including taking out your own taxes, which freaking sucks. It is continuous learning. I think the people that do the best in this business are continuously learning. They're continuously trying to get better and increase their skill set, increase their knowledge base so that they can explain things better. And again, like we said, adaptability, like the market is changing, the economy is changing. Everyone's favorite question to ask is, so is the market going to crash, or how's the market? And you have to be up to date. What you learned last year is not going to serve you necessarily today. And then client management, that is something that was really hard to learn because especially young, you're like desperate for business. And it can be very stressful. And if you're not a person that understands how to manage stress and manage relationships, then also this business probably is not for you. Before we continue on with this video, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. It would mean a ton to me if you'd hit the subscribe button. I have some unbelievable things planned for this year. This YouTube channel is going to grow and it's going to be insane. The To the Moon Collective, we've got a lot in store. Please hit the subscribe button. And if you have any interest or questions about Real Broker, that is where I am employed, I would love to chat with you about it. Shoot me a DM, hit the Calendly link below, and we can hop on a call. I would love to sponsor you into this company and help you get off the ground and get to the moon with your business. Back to the episode. Question number 2. Can I get into real estate if I don't come from money? And I think what this question is really asking is like, how much money does it cost to get started? Do I have, like, my parents weren't in real estate. Can I get in real estate? Yeah. My parents were also not in real estate. I have zero connection to a real estate background. It is something that I decided to do as I was getting out of the military. So absolutely, you can get into this business without coming from money. I would say that it would behoove you to get your savings in order if you're going to get into this business. Because again, if it's going to take you 6 months, to get your first deal, you need to have at least that much in savings. You need to be prepared. Now, I was pretty fortunate that when I got out of the military, I was able to pick up a part-time job. And the part-time job was extremely part-time. Like once every 6 weeks, I would go, I flew planes in the Air Force, hence the painting behind me. I would go on these trips as a contractor and go do flying for like a week, get paid pretty dang well, and be able to come back. And that was really nice because as a young buck, I wasn't like desperate for business. People can smell commission breath. They can smell when you're desperate for business. And it really changes your relationship with the person that you're working with. So I would definitely recommend having, this is tough because I think that you need to have some source of income, but if you are working full-time and trying to do real estate part-time, I'll tell you from my personal experience, I wouldn't hire a part-time brand new realtor, period. I don't think you would either, right? Because this is a $500,000 purchase or $600,000 or $700,000 or $800,000 purchase. I mean, even if it's $250,000, most people, it's the biggest purchase they've ever made in their life. And they want somebody that is dedicated to them to be able to work. So I think it definitely behooves you to save really, really well leading up to it and then manage your expenses, cut back. You don't need to spend money on a bunch of nonsense. You don't need to go buy a BMW or lease a BMW or something dumb like that. Like, you are fine how you are, but you're definitely going to have to start living beneath your means until you get your business really, really going, in which case you should live beneath your means anyway. Now, how much does it cost to get rolling? It really kind of depends on the process or where you go through and what state you're in. Every state is different, and we'll cover that as well. Out here in Colorado, it's about $300, $400. I don't think that you need to get like all the extra add-on study materials and stuff like that when you do get into the business or you get into your licensing course. But you do need to plan. I will say this, you need to plan to have about $1,500 probably to at least just get into the business. That's like getting your license and then actually like submitting your application and then becoming a part of the MLS. How do I become an agent? Natural follow-on question. So what you have to do is I go to Google and I type in real estate agent Colorado. How to become a real estate agent Colorado. How to become a real estate agent New York. Etc. And it's going to pop up. There's going to be a whole bunch of ads. There's going to be all kinds of sponsored stuff. And what you're looking for is the length of coursework. So every state has different requirements, which is also frustrating because you get licensed in one state and it most likely has no carryover to the other state. So I'll speak for Colorado because I know it. Here it is 168 hours. It is the second longest, I believe, in the country behind Texas, which is 180 hours. whereas like Alabama is 60 and Florida is 63 hours. So total disparity. So you definitely need to just look that up on your own. And then you kind of just do a little bit of digging and you figure out which course is the right course for me. Some of the big ones are Kaplan, CE Shop. You know, here in Colorado, I did the Real Estate College of Colorado. Most people do it online, but you can definitely do and find local courses that are offered in person. And that is just something that's going to be up to you. However, whatever your learning style is. I did it online because I had other stuff to do and I didn't want to be beholden to like going to a class and saying no to something else because like, oh, I got to go sit in this class for 2 hours. And that being said, the challenge that came with that is like you learn real quick whether you're disciplined or not because the course sucks. Hear me. If you hear nothing, if you take nothing else away from this video, I want you to understand this. The course is not reflective of the business. There's valuable information in the course, and people that tell you that there's not, they're wrong. There is valuable information in the course, but I distinctly remember going through the course and thinking to myself, is this really what real estate is like? Because this stuff sucks. It was not fun. It was not entertaining. It was really dry. It was really boring. There was a lot of stuff that I was like, what? But I would be listening to podcasts or having conversations about real estate and it was really engaging. And I was like, huh. So just understand that probably one of my biggest pieces of advice and one of the things that was most helpful for me is that like while I was doing it, I was at a brokerage and I would go into this brokerage or, you know, with a team and I was able to participate in classes. I was able to participate, you know, classes about normal, like the actual business and team meetings and monthly get-togethers and stuff like that. And it was kind of like the building of that community that I was like, okay, I'm really interested in this. But when I sit down to do the coursework sucks. They are different. And you just have to understand that. And then what happens is you do the coursework and then you take a state and national test. You take them at the same time, back to back, generally in a testing center, although technically you can do it from home too. And I know people that have done both. And my recommendation is when you go in there, you just plan to pass it, one and done. Just pass them on the first time. So if you're shaky, don't go take the test because it's like 50 or 75 bucks every time you go to take that test. And you're already going to be like in the hole if you're having to go take this test 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So that being said, it is also very rare for people to pass the test on their first try. But that is my recommendation. Plan for and set the goal of one and done. I'm going to know this material well enough that when I go take this test, I am in and out, one and done. It's going to be hard. The state test here in Colorado was the worst test I've ever taken in my life. Not because the material was that hard, but because the format of the questions. And I don't think it was designed to test your knowledge. It was designed to test, do you understand what the heck we're asking you? Which no, because it was poorly written, but that's a side note. And then if I'm telling you to pass the test one and done, then logically, the next question that I get asked all the time is, what is the best resources? And I'll answer this very simply. I did not pay for a bunch of extra stuff personally. You have to make that determination for yourself. What I can say is YouTube Prep Agent, he puts out so much free content. Now he has paid stuff as well. And I have friends that have done that and they did very well with it. I just used YouTube and his free stuff, the vocabulary. I remember I was on this drive from Colorado Springs all the way up to the northern tip of Montana, up to basically Glacier. And I had downloaded a bunch of his videos that were just about vocabulary. And he just went through questions and vocabulary and understanding it. That was so helpful because if you don't understand the terminology, it's like learning another language. If you don't understand the terminology and the verbiage that's being used, then you're really not going to have any freaking clue what they're talking about when they ask you the question, because they are going to make very, very nuanced questions that if you don't understand the difference between joint tenancy or tenancy in common, then you're going to get the question wrong or you're going to just be guessing. I also actually now, this was not around when I took the test, but I use this in my real estate business all the time. Freaking ChatGPT or Gemini, using an AI program and training it to be your tutor is a phenomenal way to prep for the test, because you're going to be taking very complex topics and you need to break them down. You need to break them down so that you understand them. And if you've never messed around, there's plenty of YouTube videos of how to have ChatGPT be my mentor or my tutor. One of the things that I like to do with it is, I'm going to use that same example, explain tenancy in common versus joint tenants. But I seem to be forgetting the difference. Give me a rhyme, give me a memory aid, give me a limerick. Limerick? Anyway, write me a poem about it. I don't know. There's a million different ways, and whatever like really, really helps you to remember. ChatGPT or some kind of AI program can actually really be valuable and teach you better than probably you can teach yourself. It kind of takes the creativeness burden from you and it puts it on the AI program, and then it just helps really make it a lot more fluid. And then third, practice, 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 and practice again. I literally could not even count how many practice tests I took. Now, that was just part of the program that I was in. Like I said, I didn't pay for any extra stuff. But what I did personally is I did national test until I could consistently score above a 93. And then I did state until I could consistently score above a 93. And then once I got that down, then I would take them back to back, because that was a different experience. It was like shifting my brain from one to the other, and it was different topics. And now it was a whole bunch of information that, like, it was a week prior that I was doing the national test a whole bunch of times. So I stacked them back to back. And then when I was consistently scoring above a 93 on both of them, then I went and took the test. So now you have passed your test. Congratulations. We did it. Please let me know when you pass your test. You don't have to come back to this video, but send me a DM or send me a message, find me on Instagram, and let me know that you passed your test, because I want to celebrate with you. That is a huge accomplishment. The test is freaking hard, but ultimately it is the first barrier to entry to getting into this business. I want to hit a major question that I wanted to put it here because it is, what should I be doing to prep to become an agent? And to be honest, it's how do you said that continuing education and continuous learning and discipline is a part of being a successful realtor. Well, then how do I implement that? So I think this is like the pivotal point for this point here. My favorite way to continue learning, and I think one of the things that really set me up for success as a young agent, was I started listening to podcasts and reading books. And by reading books, I am a terrible reader. My comprehension is good, but my memory is bad. So to me, I like podcasts because they're more conversational. They're more in line with how I communicate with the world and how I just perceive the world. So I love listening to podcasts. And I'm going to give you the 3 biggest podcasts and most important podcasts for you to listen to, whether you're trying to get into real estate or you're in real estate. Number 1, Bigger Pockets. Bigger Pockets was my introduction to real estate. When I decided 6 months prior that I was going to get into it, I started listening to Bigger Pockets. It is, simply put, the biggest forum and podcast platform for real estate investing. And they break it down. They're breaking down deals, but they do such a good job of making it accessible for the layman, for the uninitiated, for somebody that doesn't have any experience. They do such a good job. So Bigger Pockets, look them up on Instagram, look up their forums, look up their podcasts especially. And at the beginning, you're going to be like, what? I don't even know what they're talking about. And then they'll explain it, and then you'll hear that same concept again, and then you'll hear it again. And that, when you finally do get into the business, will make it so that you at least can hold conversation with people. That was hugely advantageous for me as a young person, because I had other young bucks that were coming in that had no clue, and they couldn't ask questions. They couldn't participate because they didn't even know what they didn't know. So Bigger Pockets, that was huge. Number 2, it's actually a subsidiary of Bigger Pockets. So it's one of their like offshoot shows. It's called On the Market by Dave Myers. Gary Keller from Keller Williams, he's the president, founder, CEO, one of those titles of Keller Williams. He talks about not just being the realtor of choice, but being the economist of choice. Now I'm going to tell you straight up, most realtors are not economists. But by listening to a podcast like On the Market by Dave Myers, you will actually start to understand pretty complex topics in the economic world. I didn't have much experience in economics. I was in the military. I didn't care about that. But by listening to both of those podcasts, I started to understand. And then the more that you hear it and the more that you engage in those types of conversations, the better and smoother you'll sound when you start talking to clients. And that is how you gain credibility. And then number three, there is a whole media network called BAM, which is Broke Agent Media, and they have a podcast called Knowledge Brokers. I got to give them a shout out because Knowledge Brokers is really a really fantastic podcast. They have people that come on that are very, very successful agents, and how did they get into or how did they get successful via open houses or social media or door knocking or whatever topic it is, or how did they shift their market? What are they doing about the new rules? And they just have it's really a no nonsense. Something that I really appreciate about them is um, in the Knowledge Brokers podcast, they're not gonna sugarcoat it and tell you like, oh, like it's so easy, just do this. Like they're telling you the truth. It is hard work, and only if you do immense amount of work at nauseating amounts of volume will you begin to have success. And then you have to figure out how to have success and continue immense amount of work at nauseating volumes so that you can continue and maintain and grow. So that is what I definitely recommend. Congratulations, you're licensed. It is lifelong learning. Make sure that you do not stop. And those are three good podcasts that are super, 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 super powerful for you. If you have made it this far into the YouTube video and you can find the heart hands emoji at the bottom, that is actually from me to you. I freaking love you. Thank you for sticking around this long. Now we're going to get into the big old beast questions. The questions that literally each one of these I can and will make an entire video about. But for the sake of consistency and being concise, I'm going to just make sure to answer the questions and then we'll address them further. And if you have further questions about them, definitely drop them below and I will circle back on them with you. The biggest question of them all. Well, these next two are really the two biggest questions. They're the most common questions. When somebody decides that they're getting into the business and they've got their license, it is, what brokerage do I join? That decision is so huge. This decision, I dare say, and by the way, the next question will really determine the trajectory of your career. And it will either make you like the business or hate the business. You will maybe feel trapped or you'll feel free. And there's so many factors that go into it. And I don't want to convince you either way. I'll just tell you my personal experience. I was with Keller Williams for a year and a half. I had a great experience over there. I had a phenomenal CEO at that company. The COO, the leadership team over there was really, really wonderful. They were super fun. And they really fostered a culture of, the mission, vision, values over there. It very much, the values were God first, then family, then business. And that was something that was really powerful because it wasn't just a saying on the wall. They really, really lived it. The CEO over there was very, very dialed with the market. He taught me more about the economy than I'd ever known in my entire life. And that was a really great experience. I had a good experience over there. But what you have to understand is the brokerage model is, well, let's just explain it. I was at a KW office. That is a franchise. A brokerage, like when you see Keller Williams, whatever, or Coldwell Banker, whatever, those are franchises. So you might have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, depending on how big your city is, 8, 9, 10 franchises in that city, and your experience can vary from one to the other. So maybe you decide you want to go with, I'm just going to use Keller Williams because that's where I came from and it's the only one I can speak super intelligently on. But maybe you decide, you know what? I've looked at the business model. Keller Williams is the one for me. I would not just choose the one that is closest to your house because, again, it is a franchise and they're going to have individual CEOs. They're going to have individual business practices and cultures and experiences. And if that's the route that you decide to go, then that's what you need to look at. Now, how do you choose the right brokerage? And when I say brokerage now, I'm saying the overall company. Do I go with a legacy model like Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, Remax, Century 21, even a Liv Sotheby's? Do I go with one of them? Or do I go with one of kind of the new age, like an EXP or Real? Now, I personally left Keller Williams and went to Real, and I'll do a whole video about what that decision process was like for me. Because like I said, I had a phenomenal experience with Keller Williams, but it was a big decision to leave. So some of the things that you want to look at is you want to make sure that you understand what is the brokerage providing you in terms of training. You want to see proof and evidence of that training. Hopefully, you'd like the opportunity to sit in on some of the training. How available is it? How often is it? Because you're brand new and you need training, period. You need exposure to ideas, and you need exposure to this whole different mode of operating in your life. I went from the military to real estate. It was totally different. You also need to make sure that you understand the economics of the deal. What are you paying to this brokerage? What costs are associated? Are there monthly costs? Are there, when I close a deal, what are the transaction costs when I do close something? What are the splits? So if you don't understand what I'm talking about, let's say that you do a deal and you make a $10,000 commission, right? There is, in every case that I'm aware of, now there are some like super local, hyper local brokerages that claim that they have a 100% commission. That's not the norm. And there, in my opinion and my experience, there are always caveats to that. But you're going to have a split with the brokerage. So again, I'll speak for Keller Williams, is that, they have a 70-30 split. So right out the gate, you pay 30% of your commission to Keller Williams. So of that 10,000, that's $3,000 that goes directly to them. So you want to understand all the finances that are involved. And by the way, this is a business decision that you are making. It is a business decision. And by the way, the franchise is also making a business decision. And the company is likely trying to recruit you. So I would also recommend to honestly not make a decision on the first one that you go to, or just because you know a single person there. I would interview multiple and run the numbers and do the research. Google it. Also, when you're Googling, be careful, because you might find somebody. First off, nobody should be talking smack about other businesses anyway, because that's just not a good look. But make sure it's like, wait, is this person giving me just information, or are they trying to recruit me? And you'll know, even in blog posts, you'll know. So those are some of like the biggest things. Now, for me, the main reason, this is what I'll sum this up with, the main reason that we decided to leave is because I think that the new model, the cloud-based model of your EXP, Real, you have some other ones popping up like LPT and Epic. These are cloud-based models where I'm not paying more money to the company to run a brick and mortar business that I don't even go to. I am at my house right now. My team, we have another office space. I don't need to be paying Keller Williams or Coldwell or Remax, in my opinion. And I'm saying that because we had 120 agents in our office, and there were 6 of us that went in every day. And yet everybody was paying a monthly fee. And so it was like, wait, what? And when you have that much more overhead, that is more money that goes to the company and less money that goes into the agent's pockets. So there is all kinds of math involved with that. There's all kinds of business decisions. I was very happy at that brokerage because of the environment as well. And when I went to Real, that was something that was super important to me. Aside from the economics, what is something that's very important is the culture. And I'll just share this. I got to go to New York and meet literally all of the top leadership. I got to meet the president, Sharon Srivatsa. I got to meet the CEO, Tamir Poleg. I got to meet the CMO, the CFO. I got to meet all like a lot of the top influencers and growth ambassadors in the company. I mean, it was incredible. And here's what's insane is I spent just as much time thinking to myself, how can I be just a better person? How can I be kinder? I spent just as much time having those thoughts as I did, how could I be better in my business? How could I increase my business? When you're in a company and an environment that gets you to think about being more kind, at Real, our saying is work hard, be kind. And I remember thinking like, yeah, it's cute. And like, yeah, like we'll tout that. And then I was around the leadership of the company and I was at an event and I was like, oh no, this isn't just some like cutesy saying on the wall. This is like drilled in. This is part of us. This is who we are. And that, aside from the economics, was so important to me because this business is really a relationships business that happens to transact large amounts of money. Now, I have some other videos coming out very, very shortly, so please subscribe to the channel. It means a ton to me. We're trying to grow this thing. I want the To the Moon Collective to be full of like-minded individuals. We called it the Collective for a reason because it's not just me dumping information. I want to have a community and an environment of growth, of learning, of people that are trying to take their businesses, take their lives, take their relationships, take their physique, take their sports, take their health to the freaking moon. And that's what we're going to do here. Please hit that subscribe button. I told you the second biggest question and most impactful question that will impact your career and your trajectory and your experience in real estate is, should I join a team or should I be solo? And I'm going to sum this one up in very, very simple terms. Join a team if at all possible. I like myself. I'm pretty skilled. I'm pretty smart. I've done a lot of hard and cool things in my life. But when I got into real estate, I was like, yeah, all that notwithstanding, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. And I'll tell you, I was solo for like a couple months. And then I had the opportunity to interview and join a team. And luckily, it was a team that I really, really vibe with. I really love the guys on the team. And I like the way that we do business. But I'll tell you what happened is like I joined the team and it was like when I got hired, it was like, here you go. Here's like the keys to your kingdom. And I was like, what? It was like logins to websites I had never heard of, never thought about. I didn't know like how to manage clients. I didn't know how to get clients. I didn't know the first thing about, okay, like, aside from like now they're under contract, like now what do I do? How do I keep these people happy? How do I keep them engaged? What's the follow-up plan look like? And I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. I didn't have to think about any of that. All I had to do was learn the system in which I was plugged into. And so that in and of itself for new people, I think it is wild to try to do this business solo. There are a couple unicorns in this business that somehow or another, they start solo and they stay solo. I don't know how they do it. That is likely not going to be you. And that's okay. It wasn't me either. And I've been very successful in this job. So now that doesn't mean that like you have to be on a team forever, because there's also the opportunity to do it for 2, 3, 4 years. And then I don't want to say when you've outgrown the team, but like, at some point spread your wings and fly. And I would say the big deciding point, in my opinion, for that is, am I self-generating more leads than the team is giving me? And if you are self-generating and closing more deals on your own than what the team is offering, that's probably a pretty good indicator that you're ready to go off on your own. And even if you decide not to, that's okay. Just renegotiate with your team. Maybe you do stay on the team, but you just negotiate better splits because you're providing more to the team. But that The one thing that you need to understand with the team is that not only are you paying splits to the brokerage, but you're paying splits to the team as well. And every team is different, so I'm not even gonna guess. But if you ever want to ask me, like if you go and interview for a team and you want to reach out, shoot me a DM and be like, "Hey, I interviewed with this team and this is what they said the splits were." I can at least tell you my opinion. But every team is run differently. I think there is definitely a skill at some point, just like you're going to negotiate your commission with a buyer or a seller. At some point, you're going to have to learn how to negotiate your commission with your team leader. And hopefully you're successful enough that like you've got a strong leg to stand on and a strong platform. Hopefully you bring enough value that you can say, "Hey, I don't think this current split is right anymore, and I would like to advocate for myself for a little bit higher split." So, anywho, that's my 2 cents on that. Team, 100%, if at all possible, I would totally recommend at least starting the business on the team, and then you can adventure from there. All right, we have topped out for this. This is a long but thorough and hopefully informative video, but I'm going to give you a bonus to leave on because 6 months to get paid does not sound ideal. Not to me, and definitely not to you. So, how do I make my first dollar in real estate legitimately? This is the answer. This is what I did. This is what I still do. So, yes, the regular real estate transaction where you have a buyer and they want to find a house and you find them the house and you get under contract and you sell the house, boom, that's amazing. But there is a quicker, easier way that, like, this is actually why I will never get rid of my real estate license. I figured out early on that a great way to make money is referral business. Yeah, I'd like to receive more referrals, sure. But I figured out that I knew people all over the place that were moving. Now, granted, I had an unfair advantage because I was in the military and I knew tons of people that were PCSing or moving to new bases all the time. And I just kept in touch with them. And I'd call them and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And we'd have a normal conversation. I was just catching up because I cared about the relationship and I cared about that person. And then I would ask them, "Yo, so are you going to be stuck in New Mexico forever?" And they'd go, "No, actually, I'm moving to Florida this year." I'd say, "Sick. I have a killer lender. Actually, you might know him. I've got a killer lender. Let me put you guys in touch because this is who I use for my personal deals, and it's who we use for all of our VA loans." And they go, "Oh, sick." I say, "Actually, I do have a partner down there. I might as well just put you in touch. I've already done the research. I know this person is actually a producing agent. I've interviewed them. I've already asked them all the questions." And they go, "Oh, sick," because they're going to do that anyway. Now I'm taking that burden off of them because I know what questions to ask. And so if I don't know somebody down there, I say, "Hey, I've got a colleague down there. I'd love to put you guys in touch." And I have to look them up and I'll put you guys in a three-way touch or in a three-way group. I just want to chat with them first. And then I call. And when I call them, I interview. I interview at least two, but typically three agents in said city. Let's say I've got a friend that's moving to Minneapolis. I'll look up in Minneapolis. I'll look up people's profiles. I'll look up their social profile. I'll look up, if I can, I'll try to see their production, but that's a lot harder to do. But I just want to see their reviews. I want to see what people say about them. And then I'm going to call them and I'm going to interview them. And I'm going to ask them questions. I'm going to have a conversation with them for 15, 20, 30 minutes because I'm about to pass off this deal, my friend, to this agent. I want to make sure that this person is taken care of and that they're actually with the best. I think early on I was like, "Oh, I talked to somebody, so I'm just going to pass it off." And that was a mistake and that wasn't the right way. And now I do a much deeper vetting process. But what's dope about it is it does not cost my friend anything because that agent is going to get paid a commission anyway. And now I can go to that agent and say, "Hey, I've got a super hot lead for you. They're already pre-qualified. I already know what they're looking for." And then you can charge them 25, 30, 35%. And then one day it just shows up. I made my first year, I made over $30,000 just doing that. That was separate from the real estate transactions that I was doing here in Colorado Springs. There was just deals that I sent out, and each one of those deals probably cost me maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, right? talking to the person, finding them an agent, connecting them, sending out a referral agreement contract. Good luck. And by the way, agents are super happy to do that. If an agent called me today and was like, hey, I've got actually one of my clients right now is a referral that an agent called me. She's like, hey, one of my girlfriends is up there. I love her. Would you mind taking care of her? And I was like, hell yeah. So it's such a great way to start making business quick because maybe you don't have credibility, but you can start having conversations with friends about real estate. And it's like, it's no pressure. I'm not even asking you to use me. Let me find you somebody that's good. And then they go, okay. So that is the last bonus tip. Thank you for tuning in. This is the To the Moon Collective. In the upcoming episodes, we're going to be having some killer guests. I have some unbelievable guests lined up in the coming months. You're not going to want to miss them. We're going to have I've got more frequently asked questions, more how-tos of how to get into the business. And this is going to be the place that you're going to be coming back to often. And I look forward to seeing you there. See ya.